Okay, today on the show, we have Amy Kong from the San Francisco Bay Area. Amy is an immigrant from Hong Kong, and she has served the San Francisco and Mid-Peninsula real estate markets since 1988. She is the co-founder of Trust Real Estate in San Bruno, California. Honesty and integrity are her core values in the business and also in community outreach. Among her various local and national endeavors, she is now the AREAA national president. AREAA is the Asian Real Estate Association of America. Amy is bilingual in English and Cantonese. And I'm going to read you AREAA's mission really quickly because we think it's very important. AREAA is dedicated to promoting sustainable home ownership opportunities in Asian American communities by creating a powerful national voice for housing and real estate professionals that serve this dynamic market. Now, please visit Amy on her website, which is trustreca.com. And also learn more about AREAA, visit AREAA, which is AREAA.org. Amy, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being part of us.
Thank you so much for having me, DJ. Very nice meeting you.
It's a pleasure. Amy and I were just talking for about 20 minutes before we even started, and I realized, boy, a lot of this we should have recorded, but we'll go over it again because Amy has a lot of good things to say, and we are really grateful. We should also mention that it is May, which is AAPI Heritage Month, which we should talk about what AAPI is because we'll be using that acronym during this conversation. So do you mind defining what AAPI is?
Absolutely. AAPI is not a homogeneous group. AAPI combined together represent more than 50 countries. So the short form, the longer description of AAPI is Asian American Pacific Islanders.
Wow. And we should mention that the AAPI community in the realtor community, best that we can tell, is about 7% or so of the overall realtor makeup. And so we have now about 1.5 million realtors. So that translates to roughly 100,000 AAPI realtors out there. So it's not insignificant group or number of people. And also the bigger conversation I think we'll be having later on in the conversation is the rise of some, unfortunately, some anti-Asian hate crimes that we're experiencing. And we want to have conversations to raise awareness in the realtor community about that. But before we get to that, would love to hear, Amy, about how you got into real estate. We'd love to hear that journey all the way back to 1988 to today. So can you tell us about how you got involved in real estate?
Well, I'm an immigrant, right? I'm immigrant from Hong Kong in 1988, right before the 1997, hangover.
The transfer of power, yeah.
So I came from a very traditional family, so I did not get an opportunity to go to college. So someone with no college degree, it's very difficult to locate a quote unquote better job, right? So at the moment, we have a relative that introduced me and start working in a very traditional real estate office in San Francisco, Chinatown called Dick Chin Realty. And at the time, I started as a receptionist to handle the book, which is like part of the property management work, right? And then later on, my broker found that, hey, how come you finished your job so quickly? So, well, I was young, right? So everything, we can computerize it. So then he started to give me an opportunity to learn what mortgage is all about. So I started to do mortgage. So you can imagine back in 1989, when the global recession started, interest rates started to come down, right? So I get the privilege of serving a group of Asian people within Chinatown to refinance their mortgages. So of course, naturally, down the road, I started to tap into real estate buy and sell. So I became an independent broker and run our own business since year 2000.
Wow! Well, congratulations. That is quite a journey. And how big is the Trust Real Estate team? I know you have several team members.
Yes, ever since year 2000, I've been telling myself that I really need to deliver quality work. So our office has never been big. It's always, I call it a boutique office. So now Trust Real Estate grew to a team of approximately 12 people. I didn't count it, but it's like around 12 people. But it's interesting you mentioned that because ever since I partnered with Psy Inc., which is a technology-based company, right? The level of availability of my time to not just serve the community, but also doing my business are increasing. So the production and that kind of care towards our agents increases. So I'm very happy with the new partnership.
Let's talk about that partnership only because I will absolutely forget to mention to ask about it later. So let's talk about Sighing and the sort of technology platform that assists you in your business.
Mm-hmm. Well, in 2000, I started to become a business owner. So I have to do everything, anything within the office. And then 2001, I gained my broker license and become the broker on record. So you know how that is. As a broker on record, you always worry about what's your
Everything.
agents going out there
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff. Of course, I'm lucky because I have really good licensees that, work together with the same vision to do the best we can to serve the company. But, as time goes by, I got tired as well. But when I joined Psy, I offload this kind of responsibility, but I can really focus in making sure that the next generation realtor are doing their job. Because a lot of times that because of technology like DocuSign and all kinds of stuff, it eliminates a lot of personal touch with our consumer. So back in the old days, I'll have to bring my contract, go to my client's house, explain to them one by one and what they're entering into. Nowadays, a lot of people don't even know what their contract they're getting the client into. But with Psy with the technology at the background, it gives us more time. So the interaction with consumer are much better now. So I really love the partnership so far.
That's wonderful. And let's talk about AREAA, because this is a very important organization that our audience might not be as familiar with. And now where unfortunately we're seeing a huge uptick in violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. It's becoming more prominent in the news, and we want to continue to bring that awareness to our audience. But can you talk a little bit about what AREAA actually does?
AREAA actually, but before I go into AREAA, let me share this with you. Some statistics that I just pulled up. It's like just in 2020, last year, the Asian hate crimes against Asian American dramatically increased 150%.
Yeah, I saw that same statistic. And what was most interesting to me about that statistic is that hate crimes overall actually decreased, which is even more shocking that the Asian American community had this massive increase where other groups actually saw a decrease. So this is a big problem, and it is finally getting some media attention, but it is something that is just so shocking. And I'm curious, and I apologize for cutting you off. I'm just curious on where you think that stems from. What's happening or what's our best guess on why we're seeing that uptick in the AAPI
Well, it's very
community?
simple. I guess all these conversations started when our previous President Trump started to call all these China virus,
Yeah.
Kung flu, all kinds of things, and pointing the finger over to Chinese people. So from that point on, we see all these things happening. I tell you, there are a lot more verbal abuse
Yeah.
than actual hate crime that you can see on TV. And we are blessed because there is some Asian reporter that have dedicated their lives to report all these incidences. Otherwise, I tell you, a lot of people would not even know about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
our culture has been so quiet. We've been so quiet. We are taught not to rock the boat. We are taught, to take things in without creating a lot of trouble. But I guess this is not going to continue happening. Our community is standing up. Our community is speaking up. So we will not allow things like that happen again and again. So AREAA, what AREAA do is that we are not any social justice organization. But at the time when people comes to us, because all of our chapter leaders are so passionate about our community, and nobody would like to see our people suffer like this. So when we all gathered together, we were like, number one, what has it to do with AREAA? It has a lot to do with AREAA because our members are the one that is serving this community. You tell me, our people are living in fear.
Yeah.
They cannot even walk down the neighborhood for a decent morning walk. We are so worried that our senior will be attacked. That's the kind of fear and insecurity of building within our community. We as a realtor, we have to really know what we can do in order to protect this group of people from being harmed, not just physically, but for their housing needs, right? This has a lot to do with fair housing. Think about it, DJ,
Sure.
right? So
I
if our
imagine,
people
I
are
imagine you're
so
seeing
fearful,
right. I was going to say, I imagine you're seeing an uptick in discrimination with respect to housing for the AAPI community as well.
yeah, so you imagine if our people are so fearful in living in a certain neighborhood, but that neighborhood is something that is affordable to them, that prohibit them from going over there and started a family and started the American dream to own their own home. So that's why we put together the Diversity and Fair Housing Summit to make sure, number one, we know how to be empathetic to everybody's situation, not just to the Asian, for everybody, even though our African American brothers and sisters, right? We have to be empathetic and understand, be on somebody's shoes on what the situation is. Number two, we really have to speak up when we see things that having discrimination action against our community. We have to speak up. Number three, we will do all things possible to report incidents like that. Yes, we might not be able to prosecute that person right away, but at the least once we file that incident, continuously, if these people continuously doing discrimination action against certain group, it will pile up and we can prosecute them.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We were talking about the increase in the statistics of the violent crimes that are reported, but you brought up a really strong point, which is most of the real crime, or it really isn't violent and doesn't get reported. It might be verbal, or it may be violent and not reported. And so I'm sure those numbers are actually much higher. And as you said, maybe part of the culture is to sort of take it and not always report. And I applaud you for trying to change that, to bring more awareness, so that when you see something, you say something, whether it's an AAPI member witnesses something, or somebody who's not part of the community but witnesses that kind of abuse, that can report. And I imagine landlords are probably denying more AAPI people than in previous years, I would assume, although that's probably not reported either. So it's a really difficult time right now to be an AAPI person, I imagine.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a difficult time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Within the federal level, we have a group of protected class out from discrimination, right? So we also bring to the awareness of our group. Sometimes, if you're not in a situation, it's hard for you to understand what the struggle and where the tears coming from. So being empathetic is something that our real estate professionals really have to rethink the way how we do business. Sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's about, am I providing a safe place for this person?
Yeah. And also we should talk about the AAPI realtor community is probably also experiencing additional challenges that maybe they didn't experience as much of in previous years. And I know that your members have been communicating with each other and sharing those stories of discrimination. Realtors can be petty, they can be mean, they can be just like anyone else and treat other realtors poorly. Have you seen an increase in the reporting of the realtor members with their own business being affected by some of the anti-Asian sentiment that's going on?
Well, I guess a couple of years ago, the Newsday report from New York really spelled out a lot about the action in that particular region in New York on how realtors discriminate people, right? But I can certainly tell you, right after the report, the realtor community has been working so hard to making sure that our members are not ignorant. Our members are well informed and have the knowledge to how to handle different situations. So that's one good improvement. But if you're asking this question, I would like to share some comments and stories from our people. You know
Please.
that among the realtor community, women realtors outnumbers the male realtors. And a lot of times because of all these crazy hate crime going on and all kinds of crimes been going on, especially in our region, I have heard from some of our female realtors now are hesitating to go out and show property to all these strangers that found them from online.
Sure.
So what does that translate? It limited, their possibility of making money, supporting their family. So that's not anything good. But in the meantime, we are always advising and suggesting to our realtor member when you go out and show properties, not just female, right, but also male, you have to really cautious about your safety too, where you should park and how you're supposed to present yourself. Those are the things that we really have to be cautious.
And also possibly having a first meeting in a more public space with lots of people probably decreases the risk of anything violent happening. But it is still a risk, and it is a very difficult risk. And it's very sad to me to think a realtor gets this lead, is excited to want to help that home buyer or home seller or renter, and then feels unsafe going to service that client. And of course they're feeling unsafe. And it's just an unfortunate place to be right now.
Yeah, it is realistic that we have to protect ourselves as well.
Yeah, and what I love about AREAA is not that, well, that I do love that of course the primary mission is to empower home ownership opportunities for the Asian American community, but also to provide support to those realtors, to the AAPI realtors, or for realtors in general who work with AAPI buyers and sellers, investors, renters. Can you talk a little bit about the community that AREAA has created, where those realtors can communicate and support each other?
Well, absolutely. We have conventions, we have opportunities, networking opportunity all the time. So I tell you, a lot of the people not just call AREAA, not just tell people that I'm an AREAA member. So a lot of times that people say I'm part of the AREAA family. Yeah. This is how we are. As time goes by, we ended up become really close friends because we have common topics to talk about, our business, our encounter, our family, how our spouse is supporting our business or no, what we can do, all kinds of stuff. So ended up, we really become close friends. And as you mentioned earlier, that, a lot of people are moving away from California. The migration, the AAPI migration, from some of the statistics are showing that Asian people are actually moving down to the Southeast states, like Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Alabama, Texas. So within AREAA, we have a lot of referral business organically growing and continuing. So that's another fun part of being part of the AREAA family. So the networking opportunity is just tremendous. And also the education program that we put together are also very inspiring as well. Like at the beginning of the year, I was chatting with my EDGE chair. AREAA has a group called EDGE, which is all these young professionals. So I was like, hey, maybe we should put together some program and bring to the awareness of the young realtor that this is a time for you to start building your retirement income by investing in real estate. So we call that a FIRE movement, which is financially independent and retire early.
I love it.
So that's something that our Edge group just put together an event last month. It was fascinating. We see a lot of these young realtors actually has been doing things like that. So for others on the audience, they were like, oh, maybe I should start doing it, especially interest rates so low. Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you offer a tremendous number of programming, also, community and support. And we should mention too, if any of our listeners are either part of the AAPI Realtor community, but aren't a member of AREAA, or you aren't, even if you're not part of the AAPI community, but you want to support AREAA, what's the best way somebody should get involved?
You know what, DJ, you don't have to be an Asian in order to be part of the AREAA family. I tell you, I have 42 different chapters across the US and Canada, 17,000 members. A lot of our chapter leaders, they are non-Asian. And what you can do locally, just look for an AREAA chapter locally, right? If you don't know where whether your location has a chapter, go to our website, areaa.org, contact us, or you can look up on all of our chapters demographic, then you'll be able to find a local chapter to connect. But then again, if you cannot find anything, feel free to reach out to myself or to AREAA national staff. We will definitely help you connect. And the most exciting part is that recently, because we know that there is a huge Asian migration to the Southeast states, the newest chapter is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm
Wonderful.
waiting to go there and visit them and put them all in store as chapter leaders.
Very excited. Well, congratulations on the expansion of AREAA, and it's really a magnificent organization. And I will tell you, we reach out to many organizations, Realtor Association organizations, and we usually get a good response, but oftentimes the president themselves does not often come on our show. So we are so grateful that you were willing to spend the time. And I also want to ask sort of a final question about if anyone in our audience who's a practicing real estate professional witnesses any sort of AAPI discrimination, whether it's to another realtor or to a client, a customer, or maybe has, just witnesses something that violates fair housing or possibly violates just law in general, how should a realtor go about sort of reporting that? Where should, if they don't know where to report that, should they reach out to AREAA and say, hey, I just witnessed something, what should I do? Or do you have any proactive steps of how they can proceed from there?
Well, absolutely. So as a realtor member, of course, we always suggest that go ahead and talk to that broker of that agent first, right?
Yeah.
If you cannot resolve that issue, bring it up to your local association or realtor.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that they will definitely take action.
Yes.
But if you still don't see a satisfactory result, go ahead and report it to HUD.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all these resources are all on our AREAA website. So go ahead and go to the AREAA website and you see resources on there. And if you still don't know what to do, feel free to reach out to us and then see what we can do to connect you. I can share one story with you. Our
Please.
Diversity and Fair Housing Summit co-chair, Lisa, she's from Denver, Colorado. It is very difficult for her to every time, tell this story, but the condo she lives in is something that is like really high end in Denver, Colorado. And majority of the people, of course, is not Asian. She's the one and only Asian girl in there. She's a single mom with kids, and she was pregnant. At the time, the HOA keep bothering her. Neighbor keep complaining about her on a very unreasonable level. So ended up, she feel like, is it because I'm Asian that people do things like that to me? So ended up, she filed a complaint to the HOA. The HOA ignored her, everything. And then she filed a complaint everywhere. Ended up, she filed a complaint to HUD to make a record there. So down the road, if anybody move into this complex that are not in the same color and experience things like that, at least there is a record. And that person in the future can absolutely do something about the HOA. So that's part of the action that we can do, and we should not continue, and we will not continue to suck in.
Right.
You know, our name is AAPI. A lot of times that people will lump us because our number is small. A lot of statistic, people will put white, African American, Hispanic, and other.
Right.
Some years ago, AREAA did an policy advocacy effort to ask for change on the quarterly housing report produced by the Census Bureau to our Congress and Senate to review. They lumped us into other and ended up, they created a new separate category called AAPI. So if you wanted to help the AAPI community and make sure we are no longer the perpetual foreigners, make sure on all of your research, your report, include us. And our name is AAPI. We are not other. And we will not tolerate anybody call us other.
That's a very, very strong point. And it's a not insignificant number of people in this country. If 5.4% sounds small as a percentage, but we have hundreds of millions of people in this country. We know there's almost around 100,000 AAPI realtors in the United States alone. So this is not an other, and nobody should be in the other group anyway. But there's a large community of AAPIers in this country, and they are going through a tough time right now. This is a difficult time. And the main reason that we asked Amy to come on was, well, of course, it is Asian American Pacific Islander National Heritage Month in this country, and we want to support that, but also to bring awareness, unfortunately, to some of the what we're seeing in the news. And AAPI realtors are experiencing this, as we talked about. Of course, non-realtors who are part of the AAPI community are of course, dealing with horrific crime. There were four incidences in New York over the weekend, which were unfortunately very violent. And so this is a real thing, and we just want to continue to raise awareness and let's have empathy and compassion for those AAPI realtors out there and AAPI customers who are scared. There's real violence happening. And so, as Amy said, if you see something, say something, report it, whether it's to police or if it's a realtor issue, to your local association, and then continue up that chain of command, and also report it to HUD if you see any housing violations. But we hope that, and it's so interesting too, Amy, as I was thinking about, and it's so, I feel so ignorant to not have put this together. But I was saying earlier to Amy before we started, I said, I'm embarrassed to say, but I was thinking recently, like, I wonder why there is an uptick in all this violence. I didn't even connect that because the previous administration had so demonized China in particular for COVID, that would translate into real world violence. And sadly it has. And that seems to be the most explainable reason for this uptick in violence. And so it's something that we need to remember, that words matter, and words can create unfortunate action. And so the more awareness I think we have, and the more compassion that we can summon up in ourselves, is I think what the best antidote maybe we have, and also legislation in place to protect those marginalized groups. So I applaud you. I know this is a difficult time for your community right now. And, we just want to, thank you for coming on our show and raising our awareness, and continuing to, support the AAPI community, and letting us know what we can do to support the AAPI community as well. So Amy, on behalf of, and we should mention real quickly too, for everyone listening, please go and visit AREAA's website, which is areaa.org. Learn more about it, sign up, become a member. They are a fantastic organization. They have an amazing reputation and they do a lot of good work. So go do that. And then Amy, if there's anyone out there who happens to be a buyer, a seller, a renter, an investor who is in the San Francisco Bay Area and wants to work with somebody on your team, because this is an amazing time in real estate, of course, with low interest rates and just a lot of people itching to move. What's the best way that anyone out there who wants to work with somebody from trust should reach out to you?
Go ahead and visit our website, trustreca.com. And I will give you my contact information. And then if anybody inquire about it, feel free to share. Honestly, I'm here to really make sure, the AAPI community is being noticed. And again, it's not about the deal or the money. It is about putting somebody in homes that they feel safe, happy, and grow their family. So DJ, I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of the work from AREAA. So I'm hoping that our community will continue to be better. I wanted to end this. I always share this with a lot of people. I really like Bruce Lee, not just because he's handsome, but because there are things that in his mind really inspire us. Remember one of the interview he has with the producer. The producer asked Bruce, do you want people to see you as a Chinese or an American? And Bruce's answer is, I want people to see me as a human being. So fair housing is not just for AAPI, but it's for everybody. So that's what AREAA wanted to promote and create this kind of peaceful environment. And quietly, we will make the change.
Well, I love Bruce Lee as well, and he was quite the philosopher, which a lot of people might not know. He had a lot of really intelligent beliefs and thoughts, and he had written a lot of them down. And so, if you're interested in learning more about Bruce Lee, there's books that capture a lot of his philosophies of life, and that is a perfect example of a really progressive thought back, at the time when those thoughts weren't as common. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And so we want to continue to support AREAA, and we will continue to let our audience know about the different events that you have coming. And if there is anyone out there that wants to join that AREAA, please visit areaa.org, AREAA.org. And Amy, thank you so much. On behalf of our audience, we appreciate your time. We know how busy you are running a company as well as AREAA and doing all the other amazing things that you do. So we know how busy you are, especially this month. So we appreciate the time you took to come on the show. And then, of course, on behalf of Amy and myself, we want to thank our audience for continuing to support our show. And if the best way you can help us is to just tell a friend. Think of one other real estate professional that could benefit from having heard this great conversation with Amy, and send them a link to our show. Easiest way to do that, you can send them right over to our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com. Every episode we've ever done, you can stream right from the website. If they're a podcast person, just have them pull up a podcast app and search for Keeping It Real and have them hit the subscribe button, and then they got all of our episodes. Amy, thank you so much. And we will hope to see a decrease in the next time we talk in Asian American violent crime, and we hope that obviously changes course, and we'll do everything we can to bring that awareness to our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good day.